That's started. So welcome to the webinar. I will run through a bit of an agenda, but then it will pretty much be live demo, as long as my internet complies, to show you the platform and the functionality that I want to illustrate today. So a little bit of housekeeping first. I've just turned this on, so we're recording now. So you'll all receive a link to the recording and the slides, although the slides will not have much in them, but there are a couple of links. There is closed captioning enabled. If you want to use them, you should be able to turn that off and on, although I can't work out how to turn it off on my screen, so it's a little bit distracting. I used to know how, but I can't anymore. We should have time for Q&A. Please do add questions in the Q&A or in the chat during the webinar as they occur to you, and I will try to address them if I can. And if there's some specific functionality you want me to show, do pop that in and I can try and illustrate, demonstrate. As long as I can remember how to do things, I can show those to you then. And just a point here, hopefully you're aware, but there's a location where we post the different webinars that we're offering all the time. But actually also, if you're using protocols.io and really want help in a more of a one-to-one setting, do feel free to sign up for a demo. The link for that is here as well. And now I will run through the agenda. And this is really the functionality that I'm going to run through showing you today. So first of all, using the editor, how you can upload and import existing protocols that you might have in another format into protocols.io in a way that should save you a little bit of time. I will also show some of the components that we have in the platform. There's a lot of functionality in there, but I'll illustrate a few which might be just useful for getting started and playing around with. Run through tables, how you can pull in images and videos, and also the run functionality, a very quick look at the run functionality that we have that allows you to make a record of a dynamic run through any of the protocols that you might be accessing. Into more the file manager view, the ability to fork and or copy, and I'll run through the differentiation of those and what the differences are. There's a really nice help page that actually talks this through, so if you're still confused at all, this link would be very good, but I'll just show this page in a bit to talk you through. Also how you can create collections. So most people are familiar with being able to make protocols with protocols.io. It may not be as obvious that if you are thinking about publishing protocols alongside a research paper, that if there is more than one, you can gather them together in a single collection, which can then make it easier to link to from a research paper. I'll quickly touch on sharing and publishing as well, and then there should be lots of time for Q&A, which will allow us to go over anything that you actually want to ask as well. So as I said, most of this will be done through a live demo. I am assuming, as I said, that you have already got an account. If you haven't, actually, you may want to do this now. You can go to, let me pop it into chat, protocols.io/welcome, which is a really good, just general page if you haven't looked at it at all before. And in the top right of that page, you will see a location to sign up or sign in. So feel free to come in and play around and have a look and make an account there too. Anyone can have a basic free account. If you have already done that, you will have internally a workspace, a location like this. So this is just a demo one that I often use, my workspace. If you have multiple, they will show up on the left-hand side along here. So each of these is a different workspace. If you just have the basic free account, you're probably only working in one, which is adequate anyway to play around and make protocols and publish them if you want to do so. You can control various different administration settings in here as well. So if you're working with a team, here's where you can access admin and invite members, change settings, priorities for different people, what kind of rights they have if they can access content, edit it, etc. And you can jump around between the folder and the profile. The profile's perhaps more of interest if you're making a public workspace, but if it's just a private one, you may not be as worried about that anyway. But anyway, this shows you that inside view of the protocols that you have. And if you are just getting started and want to make your new protocol, it's kind of, if you're just getting started and you want someone to just put content that's currently shared anywhere, you can upload files and just drag and drop them into the workspace. So if you've got Word docs or PDFs that are scattered across laptops or your institutional hard drive somewhere, you can centralize them all in a workspace just by dragging and dropping in using upload files. So that's kind of one step to centralizing in the most basic way. What you can also do if you make a new protocol, now I've got one, here's one I made earlier. If you do create a new protocol, this is what it will look like. I've already given this a title, but that's the only thing I've done for it. If you just want to do this to share with people, but again, you haven't got a lot of time, if you click through to description, again, you can browse and just upload a file here. The reason that you might want to just do this, kind of not really make the protocol and just add the file, is that this will then be more discoverable internally. So if you're sharing with other colleagues, that's a really good way to at least make a stub for a protocol. You can add the steps later in the more dynamic format, but for now, if you want to do it, you can do it that way. However, if you do also have a protocol in some other format, there is a really nice piece of functionality, which we have here on the left, insert steps from text. And this is going to allow you to paste in if you have a protocol in another format somewhere else. So I handily have here a protocol that is just in a Google Doc off to the side. So we have the title and the author's abstract before you start, and then we have steps 1 through 16. So if I grab all of those and copy, and then go back to the editor where I had clicked to insert steps from text, I can paste these here. And what I tend to do is paste and match style, because if you copy from a PDF or a Word document, sometimes there is strange tagging that comes along and that will look very garbled. If you do paste and match style, it puts it in more just as the text version. So in this instance, it's that each number is a step, so it's that top option, but it could be that you have them just on new lines, excuse me, or you could be using markdown text, in which case you can do it that way. But so I've got my steps 1 through 16 pasted in, and we'll do preview, and you can see that it's pulled in my steps 1 through 16. That looks pretty good. So we'll say add to the protocol, and that will just pull that in for me. So now I have in my protocols.io more dynamic format, actual separate steps for each one. What it doesn't do is format any of the quantities or times or temperatures and things that I could actually capture. I'll run through components in a minute using these tools that are in the editor, but then you can go through and do that later on if you want to. For now, at least, it gives you the protocol in the nice dynamic format, which then means that it will show up more like this if you actually share it with colleagues. If you want to have a more dynamic central version of the protocol somewhere that you can run, I talked about the dynamic run through, or copy or fork. So now you have a lot more options on here for what you want to do with that, and also sharing it with colleagues, etc., etc. So that's how you can pull things in from other protocols if you already have them in a different format. If you're copying in from a PDF, you do need to go through and just check that any special characters or different kind of formatting hasn't been warped in that transfer, but it works quite well and it absolutely saves quite a bit of time in doing that. We would still have to paste in the other parts of this separately, so we would have to just individually get title and put the title up at the top instead. And again, abstract and things, you'll have to paste them separately. guidelines and warnings. There's a before start section. So we can still capture all of those parts and paste them in. Still a little bit of a time to do, but not that much really. And then you've got a protocol that you can version and continue to work on protocols.io. So that is pulling in all of the protocols if you already have them. I will spend a little bit of time just showing you now some of the components that we have in protocols.io in the editor. So this is just an example protocol again that I've pre-made. I should run through on the editor. On the left-hand side is a toolbar for things relating to adding steps or sections within the protocol, actually manipulating the steps and that part. At the top is very typical kind of formatting like you would see in Word or a Google Doc for, you know, justification, superscript, subscript, adding in tables, adding in images and videos. I'll show those in a minute. They are all along the top. And we do have all of these tabs for lots of other important or interesting information, so references, materials. If you add in references or materials into the protocol, they will automatically populate across, but only if you add them in using the components to do that. At the very top here, I have nested in a protocol. So this is really easy to do using it's not letting me click in. There we go. Using the protocol on the right-hand side. Excuse me, I'm losing my words this morning, the protocol component. So this one has been added in using that already. And what this does is allow you, if you at the start of a big protocol need to make buffer solution, or there might be optional things that you might need to do right at the start, as a kind of sub protocol, you can actually pull in another protocol that you've created separately. So if you know there are common parts of methods that you do, you can think about doing them that way. And so this has got another protocol just nested in at the top. So it allows you to make them a bit more modular that way. In the next step, we are using the sample component. And so what this is, it allows me to define a sample. So in this step, you can see that I'm creating something, some kind of mixture, master mix, whatever it is. We've called it here my special sample. So I can define this in the actual component. So you would define the sample. And I'll note here that it's as generated in step 2. So now you can see it's updated to have that name. And that's what I'm creating with the addition of these 3 different quantities of reagents. And again, can use the amount component for these. So we could add something else here and use amount again and say 5 microliters of, I guess we're up to reagent D at this point in time. So we can add and define all of the different things that we're putting in here. And that's the master mix. And that is what would be my special sample here. And then later on, anytime I want to talk about that sample, that buffer solution, that sample, whatever it is, I can actually just click in, take it away, and then you'll see. So we've got pipette 5 milliliters of that special sample. So you can create the definition of a sample and add that in. If you are wanting to use the timer, we have duration. So again, we can pop that in and define time, and it goes through weeks, days, hours, minutes, etc. Or you can put it as overnight. I won't leave that one there, but that gives you the idea. So here we've got mix for 30 minutes. So many different components that we have. So you can add a note. So that is over on the right somewhere as well. Now I can't find any of them while I'm scrolling. Note is here. Safety information, the red one. So you can be very specific about the things that you need people to be careful about. And again, these are as easy as clicking safety information. And then you would type in, obviously, what that is in that location. So you can add all of these parts in here very easily. Next one I will show is Smart Component. So this is a nice component, which I think is maybe not the most intuitive, so it's quite a nice one to actually show. So if we pop that here, allows you to create a key value table, which sounds a bit complicated. Actually, all it is it allows you to define something that will need an answer to it, essentially. So we might have number of cells, and this might be something that you will need to be doing as a part of the protocol at this point in time. So you can require an answer. You can add as many rows to this as you want, make them required or not required. The required is important if you actually do a dynamic run of a protocol, because it will make you fill in an answer in this pair table before you're allowed to proceed to the next step. So that then comes in like this. So we have an element, sort of a question and an answer, an observation that you're needing to do and an answer, and so on. We can also have sub-steps. So we've got step 4 and then 4.1, 4.2. And again, it's very easy with these on the right-hand side. We can add another sub-step. So we can pop these all in here. For any step, we can also, sorry, it's a bit hidden, this one, mark a critical step. So this is a way to mark something important about that step as you're actually performing it. Just jumping off the page as I'm trying to scroll through for you. So if there's an overnight step or a critical step, or something's particularly toxic, or it's computational or imaging, again, you can flag these up. So we will say imaging, and that will now show up on the right hand side. Sorry, it's a bit hard to show everything on the screen. So that shows up over here on the right. So then at a glance, we can see here, I had added one before as a pause point. So maybe that's somewhere where it's good, you're fine to stop and leave things overnight or whatever you need to do. Here we've got the pipetting one. So we can flag and indicate specific things that we're doing at any given point during the protocol. We can capture time when we've used the duration component. It will pull in a time for that step, but you can individually add information about the time you think any given step will take, and it allows you to see an overall time for the protocol as a whole at that, or the section as a whole at that top of it. If it continues to go together at the end, it will put all of that together. Images, videos, and tables. So we can add in lots of much more dynamic media than you would be able to put into materials and methods section of a journal article. And also you can just make it much more instructional. So if you're wanting colleagues to be able to reproduce, you can take photos of setup or include figures to illustrate things. And these are from the top. So we have insert image, video. The video part of this would be for if it was a very short video taken from your phone or something, but not huge from a size perspective. So I've got just a demo figure here that I will pull in, and it's just going to load it in. My internet works again in here, and we can resize and we can give it a legend of information, whatever's relevant that we want to add in here. So you can do images that way, and small videos that aren't too large in size from your phone or from wherever, you can embed them this way. If you have a much larger video, I'm failing to remember what the size limit is for the smaller or larger, but if it's larger, what you can do is put it onto YouTube or Vimeo or another video location, and then you can embed a link to it from here. So I've got DNA electrophoresis sample loading that I've loaded up earlier. If I click share and then embed, what happens is I get this embed code, which I can copy, and then we will go back to the embed video here, and then I will click the embed video that's at the top over here. And now I can paste, and that's putting that embed code that I've just taken from YouTube, and we'll click save, and it pulls the video in. So you can have much more kind of didactic information on a how-to in a video that you can put into the protocol on protocols.io, and it's very fast and it pulls it in straight away. So then if you're running this through the protocol, it's very easy to play that on the fly. If we add tables, which we can do really easily up here, like you see on any other kind of Word type program, we can pull them in, and within the table, we can add and include Excel formulas. So the formulas that work normally in other spreadsheet software like Google Docs, Google Spreadsheets, or Excel, you can use the formulas in here. And then if you're completing the table when you do a run through, it will calculate that for you. So in this instance, let's say I'm putting some in now, it's calculating, and I'll show you in just a second if you run that you can complete that when you go through and run as well. We are not just for wet lab research, so there is quite a bit of computational components in here as well. There's some kind of chemistry things, pH, spectral data, generic things, but there's a few computational ones in too. It's not meant to be a replacement for GitHub or a Jupyter notebook, but it does allow you to capture a workflow, pipeline or process for following a computational suite of things. So you can, for example, add in commands. So I will just search for remove line breaks. You can define a command. There's some things in here already that you can look for. I am not particularly computationally savvy, but this just illustrates how that then looks for you. So you put in the command, that will show up with whatever the command is defined as, and the actual command, and it can be more than one line, it can be a small script. And then it's very easy for anyone using this to copy the actual text, the important code text, copy it, and then use it if they're actually following a process somewhere else. You can also link to specific software. So again, we'll search for ImageJ, well-known imaging software that lots of people use. This has been added a few times by different people, so we're not stopping people adding, but you can make sure that it's the version that you're using, Windows, or define whichever is the right one for you, and pull that in and save as well. So you can say this is the software that I'm using, and also data sets. So if you're specifically using some publicly available data set, you can also look for that, or you can define what it is with a link to where it is, just so, and version number, things like that, that you would be important to know what you did for reproducibility. So you can add all of those computational components into. The other thing I'll highlight in the editor is the ability to add divergent options. So if your protocol, you will always be following the same protocol from sections 1 through 8, but then at section 9, you have two options, and it may be if A, you want them to follow one pathway, if something else, you'll follow another pathway. And it might be that this is a pathway for different pieces of equipment, or it might be, if you're doing things with cells, that it's for different cell types. Whatever it is, we call this a step case. You cannot merge them back, but you can then follow separate pathways from then on, and you can make as many in one place as you want. So if we wanted, we could add another step case here, if C do this. Step case C, we'll call it, and add that. And so now we've got step case C, if C do this. So you can see that's got no steps in it at the moment. B has got 2 steps in it. A has got other steps in it. So you can see how that persists and goes through. So if we're in A, we've got a few other things. Leads me to showcase the well plate map component, which is this one here. So this allows you to define a well plate. If you're doing screens, you can say how many rows and columns and put information in them. You can add color if you've got a specific color setting that makes sense, or add new. We'll go with some different colors and it will put you coloring on them. So if you're following a specific pattern and so on, you can do that. So we have lots of other things. We can have a go-to. So if here, we actually need you to jump back up. Maybe now you're following step case B. You could come back up here and say go to step wherever, a different section, or step 3 and so on, and point someone back up to a different step in the protocol. So you can kind of direct back to redo something if needed. And you can pull in citations. So I'll get rid of that one and show you that from scratch. So if we go to the citation, this works the same way as when you pull in a protocol as well. So you can actually search protocols here, or you can search articles. That's just pulled some up for me, but I was going to look for Tatelman. That's Lenny is co-founder of protocols.io. So he's got a few things here. Here we go. Here's a Lenny one from when he was actually doing research before he launched protocols.io. So we can pull in a citation here like this as well. So if there's relevant back literature that you want to cite in here, then you can do that this way. I think that will now, but I think when I view the protocol, it will show up under the references. So let's have a quick look if we view that now. See, I've got my abstract that I'd pulled in other places, all of this. We come down, we've got the video with everything in. I'll quickly show you in a moment how you can run. So this gives you the nice view option. There's that reference. So the reference is in there, materials that I've included when I've actually linked to a reagent from a catalog. I can capture all of that information and make sure that shows up under materials as well. I will quickly though show you, and this is pulled up step case A, but I can choose the other step cases if I want to. Where did it go? Down here. I can switch between the different ones and change what I follow. So if I wanted to run it, but do step B, go through step case B, I can pick that here now. But we'll run through with step case A. And this is the ability to do a run record. So we can run and save a record of what we've done. This is going to allow us to step through all of the steps one by one. Because I've pulled in a protocol at the very start, it's actually giving me those as 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. And then we're on to, and 1.4, sorry. And then we come on to the ones that I'd actually put into this current protocol. So if we start at the top, we can say, I've done that step, I've done that step. You can see it's going to take me on a completion all the way through. If I have a timer in here, I can actually run the timer in the program on the device where I am. So I've done that step. And then we're on step 2. So with the sample, or something where you're making a master mix, or just creating buffer, doing something like this, there is some very nice functionality. You can scale the protocol. I think I've gone one. Anyway, you can scale the protocol. I don't know if I went one too far then. When you have multiple volumes in a step like that, oh, here we go. It's doing it for both of them. I can scale by 5. And it will tell me if I've scaled up. So today I know I want to make more of my special sample, just so I've got some. I'm going to put some in the freezer. It will allow me to do the scaling and capture what I've done. So at some point, any step here as well, I can add comments for this protocol run. So I've decided to scale up and make more. And then when I save a run record, it will have any information in here that I've captured as I've gone through. Again, we've got that. Here was that smart component. It will not let me go on until I've completed that. So we'll just pop those in, and now you can see I can carry on going through. I think there was something else, which the video, I can run that here, or I can ignore it if I want. It was the table. So when I get to the table where I've got the Excel formulas in, what I can also do is edit a step. So I can come in and actually make these observations during the protocol, which will do then perform me calculations on the fly. So you can sort of start doing some analysis of your data for you if you have already put those tables into the protocol themselves. And if you're saving that, then it's going to save the values you've added in your protocol at that point in time. So down here, we can copy the command line if we want. So if we are actually using a computer program or something alongside doing the run, we can grab the code really easily and use it anywhere else. And at any point, we can save the run. So we can pop that in, we'll call it in my run records. We'll call this just webinar component examples and save. And I think I had my file manager open. So in there, I had my run records, and you can see it's got me this saved webinar component examples from today. It's 11:30, just gone here in the UK this morning. So now I've got my run record with any information that I've written alongside those comments or data that I've observed as I've gone through. And that's not quite completed because I didn't finish it. So it's a multi-day protocol. I can come back tomorrow and resume, or a colleague who has access can also resume. So we can hand this over if different members of the team are going to be doing different parts of the protocol. When you finally do finish it, if I were to come back and click finish run when I'd gone through the rest, I can either take it to completion or click finish run. I won't do that now because I'll need to then refresh. It then would turn green and be a completed run record and would no longer be editable. And so you would have your date time-stamped run record that would correlate with anything you had done that day, any data you generated. So that's a whistle stop of all of the run functionality and so on. I was going to mention the next thing on the agenda was the fork versus copy. And there's this link to this help page that I talked about earlier. This is that actual help page. So there's a lot of really useful information. If you click protocols.io/help, you'll find there's lots of different sections in there with useful information about how to use protocols.io. This is quite nice. So if you've made a protocol either privately or publicly, you can subsequently make new versions of your own protocol. Another user can also try to make a new version of your protocol, but only the original owner can approve publication of new versions. But it is possible if a group leader owns it and a postdoc makes a new version, they can request it be merged and published. It's very much like GitHub. So it's a possible way of making new versions. But so this is updating, fixing a step, making a change. The other two main functionalities we have are fork and copy. I'll start with copy. Copy only works on your own protocols. So you can make an exact replica of your own protocol if you want to start again and change things completely, or if you know you're adapting for a different scenario and you want it to look completely fresh, you can do it that way. Fork allows you to make your own version of anyone's protocol that's publicly available or a private one that you have access to. And it will always show you the origin though. So it will show you that it was forked from another protocol. But that also means that you can find someone else's really lovely protocol that's been made publicly available, but you know that you have different equipment or you want to apply it to a slightly different scenario, you can fork their protocol and then it will be a private version of it for you that you can make changes to. And you can publish if you want. Then if you do publish it, it will always show that it was forked from another protocol. So I'll very quickly show you what that looks like. So if I come in here and look at an Ebola virus sequencing protocol, this one actually, I already know, has some pretty important public forks that were created of it. So this is a virus sequencing protocol. It has been forked to post publicly coronavirus sequencing protocol. So because the two viral sequencing protocols are very similar to one another, it made a lot of sense to make a fork and adapt it. This meant that the coronavirus one was able to be published much faster. But if I want to, I can say fork. It's confusing because I see copying because I have kind of more super user functionality, but you would only see make a fork. And I can do that and it will ask me where I want to put it. So we'll just put it into my workspace and we'll call it Emma's fork of, and it will just be private anyway, only I will have access right now in my workspace, but it means I can come in, make the changes that I need to, either for another different virus, or if I want to be doing, not sure I really would want to be playing around with Ebola virus above my ability level, but I could come in and make any edits for equipment that was relevant for me, for any other just different specifics about the protocol that made sense, and that would be my own version of. When I view anything that's been forked, it will always show me where it was forked from. So we know that it was forked from this publicly available Ebola virus sequencing protocol. It still has Josh listed. If I made massive changes, I can change the author list. I can communicate with Josh if I want to, because if I click through to his profile, I can message him using protocols.io. There's a platform in here. So if you wanted to communicate with someone who's posted things on here, very easy to do that. Also very easy to ask questions of them by adding comments on their actual protocol. So this one doesn't have a huge number. The coronavirus one has a lot more, I think. But if you wanted to, you had a question about the incubation here, come along and can ask a question and post it. And the authors of that public protocol will be alerted that a comment has been added and they can come and respond to it. So there's lots of ways to come in and interact with people who've shared information on the platform already as well. The next thing I was going to talk about quickly was collections. So if you are using protocols.io, it really wants me to rate the platform today. It keeps asking me every time. If you are wanting to publish protocols alongside a journal article, we do have several journals that we're very tied in with where they strongly recommend. But if that paper has more than one protocol in it, what you can do is gather it into a single collection, and the collection will have, excuse me, its own DOI, but you can pull in multiple other protocols into the collection, and each of those will also get their own DOI, the digital object identifier, if you publish it. But in the paper, you can link to a collection of protocols available on protocols.io. So if we were editing this too, if you started with a blank one, you would just have this at the top, but you can search your files. We'll search for test. Don't know what I'll find. All sorts. Let me go back and do protocol. Let's go protocol 1 for test. Is it not going to find? Oh, we've got lots in here. The search doesn't always do exactly what you think it will, but I don't know why you're getting it like that. It's a bit, that's a bit odd. They're not my files. I don't know where my ones have gone. But anyway, in theory, you can look for your protocols on here and pull them in. We'll just pull in someone else's for now and see what we've got down here. But you can see it's added these protocols to the bottom. I had 3 there before. And if I want, I can move them up or down. So I can order these around very easily. We'll move up. Maybe we want the component examples at the top. We can move them up, we can take them off. We've got this one twice, so actually we don't want this one again. Maybe we don't want this one. So we can come in and move around the protocols that we've got on here, and that will pull them all into that collection as well. I'm going to flag to the developers that something a bit funny is going on when I'm searching just now on those, but it gives you an idea. You can see what is possible with that. I think sometimes it gets warped because I have a kind of super user functionality. But then that is a nice seg into the publish, sharing and publishing, which is one of the last things I was going to show. You can individually publish any protocol that you've made. So if I come back to this one earlier where I pulled in from the Google Doc, I can choose to publish this. It will walk me through this 6-step process. There are things that will be required. So for example, it will not let me go without adding an abstract. It will make sure there are authors and either funders or no funders, and various other steps before it will kind of make some author confirmations, and then I can post it. And it's a bit like posting a preprint. If you don't have a paid account, we will screen before it goes live. If you are someone with an institutional account, it will happen automatically and it will get a DOI. If you are using and creating a collection, it can be a time saver, because if I have 3 protocols in here, none of which are public, if I click to publish, what will happen is that each of the sub protocols will be walked through to make sure that they also all have the important metadata, abstract, author list, etc. And it won't let me go unless I've added that to all of them. So I think it will want abstract. It probably still won't, because this last one doesn't have an abstract, and then it will let me go ahead. It will do the same for author list on all 3, and for the protocol overall. So it will make sure you've added an author, so we'll make sure I put myself in. Funding doesn't apply. Sub protocol though, component examples also needs an author. This one also needs an author, and it's still gonna make sure I've added them all. We can discard comments. So if you've used commenting with colleagues, you can remove them before you publish. So it's very easy to say, take any of those comments off. Give a status of your protocol and what kind it is. We'll call this non-research. I'm not actually going to publish. And if you belong to various workspaces, so if you're working in your own space, but your lab has a public workspace, you can say, I want this to appear on the example group workspace. I want this to show up there as well. So you can pick. I always end up in lots of workspaces. You pick all of these things, and then you can preview. So we'll have a quick preview of the 3 in the collection. At the very end, the confirmations. These you should take as seriously as if you were posting preprint a paper publicly. If you continue after this, you will make whatever you've created publicly available with a digital object identifier, the DOI, which is the same kind of identifier that a paper gets if you publish it, and it can't be taken down without us kind of putting a retraction on it, essentially. So this is a kind of a formal publication. It does go to Crossref. It will be indexed in various places. If you have linked with your ORCID profile, it will show up under your works on your ORCID profile. So it is this kind of a final thing, but that is how you would publish. So if you've gathered your multiple protocols into one collection, you only have to do this process once, and all of the protocols in the collection will be published at the same time. So it can be quite a nice time saver if you are putting multiple protocols up on the platform in one go. And then the other thing I was going to show, we'll go back to my fork here. If you've found a really cool protocol and you're adapting it, someone else's, or if you're working on your own in the lab, what you can do is, where am I? Well, let's go back to edit. You can share here. So while you're editing, you can come in, you can choose colleagues who you want to share this with, and the kind of permissions that they have. So I could share this one with, if I could type, Lenny, my boss, again. So if I add him here, what I can do is be very careful with the permissions that I let him have. So maybe I want Lenny to be able to just run with this, do everything I can do, so make it so that he can edit and publish. He's not an administrator, so he won't be able to transfer or change things, but he would be able to publish it. And if I click save, he will get an email telling him that. He would also get an alert notification with the red icon over the bell about someone having shared with him. So we can share with individuals this way. Could also share with another workspace. So again, if you have a lab workspace, but you're working in your own, you can also share your protocol with that lab whole other workspace too. So I can give edit permissions to anyone who would be in the demo workspace as well if I wanted. So there's various different ways that you can do this, this kind of sharing functionality. So I won't save that, so I won't trigger emails to people. Those are all of the main functionalities I was going to run through. And I can stop now though for some Q&A. We've still got about 10 minutes left. And I will take questions, and I can see that one just popped in to the chat already. Can you update a published protocol? If you have posted it publicly, you can't update that version, but what you can do is make a new version very easily. Let me see if I can find one where I can just run through from here. If this was my protocol, which it isn't, you can click to make new version, and then you can make any changes that you want to the protocol and publish it. And if you publish one, let me show you what the one with multiple versions looks like. So I happen to know that the coronavirus one, also, it's quite nice. If you have linked to the DOI of a protocol from a research paper and you do subsequently update it, if anyone follows that DOI from the published paper to protocols.io and there is a newer version, this is what they will see. They will be told that there's a newer version of the protocol available and asked if they want to view the newer version. So we'll say yes in this instance. So Josh Quick's actually made a 4th version of this. He's come back and created new versions periodically. So there were 3 in 2020, and he actually came back just a couple of months ago and made another new version available. And what's very, very nice with this too is that you can do comparisons. So we can say compare version 4 to version 3. I actually have no idea what he has updated in this, but it will highlight to you what has been changed between the two. So on the left hand side, that's his 4th version. On the right hand side was his 3rd version, and you can see the changes that have been made. Again, it looks just like the notes at the top. There probably are other things in here if I was scrolled down, but that's the ability to update with new versions. So it's very nice, very dynamic functionality that allows you to keep your protocols updated as they continue to evolve, because rarely will they stay static. I think that's typical generally. All right, I'm just going to have a quick look. Other questions. How does protocols.io handle the original template created by the lab manager and instances created by other users? Well, you would always know who owns a protocol. So if you're in the workspace, you can see who the user is that's created any protocol file. So you'd always know whose it was. I'm not sure I know exactly what you mean by handle the original template. It would be then whatever it is. If you have shared a protocol with another user and they have made changes to it, you can see the history. You can't see all of the history with a basic account. I think you can see about 10 steps, but if you have a paid account, someone with a license, you would see, I mean, I'm the only one who's played around with this, but if I had shared this with a colleague and they had made changes, I would be able to see any changes they had made to the protocol. If only I have access, then only I will have done anything. But if someone else made a fork of it, it would be owned by them. So I'm just looking at the questions at the same time, trying to kind of wrap my head around. Let me just, you can't use protocols.io offline, no, but we have, I'm looking at that, can you establish your own instance at an institution? We have set up VPC, virtual private cloud instances of protocols.io, but only for pharmaceutical companies right now, not for university institutions. However, it is possible to do that. Otherwise, everything is cloud-based and done in that typical cloud-based way these days. Going through all of your questions, Gary, they are all very good questions. So does protocols.io link with any existing electronic lab notebooks? Yes, we do. So we have an export link that you can push to various apps. So if I click add apps down here, we have got a tie-in with Lab Archives. So if you have got already an account on Lab Archives, you can validate into your Lab Archives account from protocols.io and push protocols or protocol run files to your notebook there. OSF, these are more kind of drive instances, OSF, OneDrive, Dropbox, Drivebox. You can configure any of these that you want. The other electronic lab notebooks that we have integrations with have been created by the electronic lab notebooks, but there is one with RSpace and there is one with Cynote, and then it's from the ELNs that you're able to sign into protocols.io and pull from protocols.io or push back, I think, but it's done from the ELN side. So they're the three we have right now. We've been thinking about others. We haven't got any others right now on the go, but we're open to suggestions if there's a specific one that lots of people would request. You're kind of that use the same template but use different parameters, thus each protocol is different. I'm still not really sure exactly what you mean, but you know, if a new user makes a copy of a fork of someone else's, they can make whatever changes they want. They can update the author list and adapt, but you do see, because anything that's made publicly available is CC BY license, essentially it's available for reuse with attribution, and because the fork is captured, that attribution is built in to any kind of variant protocol that's created from a previous one. And we've never had instances of people being upset that someone has made a fork. I think if they're sharing it on protocols.io, they're kind of open to the fact that other people may come along and use and adapt. Really, that's a positive about the platform rather than a negative. And so we haven't really had any instances of it being an issue. I hope I'm answering that, Gary. If you want, in a minute, I can try and unmute you, and so you can ask maybe more clearly if you want. But I'll just look at the other question in the chat. I've been working on optimizing protocol, making lots of changes, private, struggling to find how to perform the scaling function. Is this function only available if it's published? No, it's available when you run. So when you are performing a run of a protocol, then well, let me go back. Maybe, I don't know if I can go back. In any of these steps up here, it's across to the right hand side. There are 3 dots when you're during an actual run, and then you've got the scaling functionality appears there to scale. And when you're running through, at any step where you are, you'll see it. There's add comment on the right and there's edit or scale. So that's how you can access that too. So if you click this here, and then you've got the scale at the top. So you can either scale the whole protocol, which is what I did on this one, by 5. So it would happen in any step with the quantities in, or you can scale for one single step and just scale up that one step. But you can't when you're in the editor, you can't just use it anywhere else. So hopefully, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, very good. Gary, I'll unmute you in case I've not answered what you were asking and you want to be more specific, because I'm not really clear if I did or I didn't, but don't feel pressured. You don't have to if you don't want to speak out. But I think if not, I'll stay on the line for another couple of minutes. Okay. If anyone has other questions, or feel free to email afterwards, pop that page back up again. My email's right there. Info is the generic one for protocols.io. So if you're working and it's not European time friendly, someone in the US might see that. So if I'm not responding, you can also try info and get answers about things. But hopefully it's been a bit helpful today. Feel free to follow up if you have got other things you would like me to go over, or to sign up for a demo, because if you pick one of the European time ones, it would be me as well. I can see one hand up. Yes, Elma. I don't know if that was a deliberate hand up or not, but all good. If not, thanks everyone for joining today. I'll turn off the recording.